The little girl wasn't supposed to be inside the grand hotel ballroom. She wore a faded red coat that was one size too small, her boots were worn from 2 winters of walking, and she clutched a handmade Christmas card instead of an expensive gift. Yet when she looked up at the lonely millionaire standing beside the enormous Christmas tree, she said the one sentence that stopped time. She softly told him that he looked like someone who needed a family too. The laughter, music, and celebration around them suddenly faded into silence. For the first time since losing his wife 4 years earlier, the powerful businessman felt tears filling his eyes because a child he had never met had somehow recognized the loneliness he had spent years hiding behind success. Before this unforgettable Christmas story begins, if you believe kindness, love, and second chances still exist, please like this video, leave a comment telling us where you're watching from, share this story with someone you care about, and subscribe to channel name. Your support helps us continue sharing emotional stories that bring hope to people around the world. The Christmas Eve morning sun filled the city with a soft golden glow as families hurried through busy streets carrying wrapped presents, hot chocolate, and joyful smiles. Every store window sparkled with colorful decorations, and cheerful music echoed through the air. It was the happiest day of the year for many people. For Alaric Thorne, it was simply another reminder of everything he had lost. At 43 years old, Alaric was one of the country's most respected real estate millionaires. Newspapers praised his business success. Television hosts admired his charitable donations. His luxurious penthouse overlooked the entire city, his companies employed thousands of people, and his wealth continued growing every year. But every Christmas morning he woke up alone. For years earlier, his beloved wife, Helena, had passed away after a sudden illness only weeks before Christmas. They had dreamed of raising children together, filling their home with laughter and holiday traditions. Instead, Alaric found himself surrounded by expensive furniture, silent hallways, and unopened ornaments that still carried memories too painful to touch. Since then, he attended every Christmas charity event because helping strangers felt easier than facing an empty home. That same morning, across town, Rowena Ellis carefully buttoned her 7-year-old daughter Nori's old red winter coat. Rowena worked as a hospital cleaner during the day and baked homemade cookies at night to earn enough money for rent. Life had never been easy since her husband passed away in a construction accident 3 years earlier. Money was always short. Sleep was never enough. Yet she refused to let bitterness enter their home. She taught Nori that kindness cost nothing but could change someone's entire life. Instead of buying expensive Christmas presents, Nori spent weeks making handmade Christmas cards for lonely people she believed might not receive any gifts at all. Each card carried colorful drawings, glitter stars, and one simple message. You matter more than you know. That afternoon, Rowena volunteered at the annual Christmas charity celebration hosted by Alaric's Foundation inside the magnificent Grand Sterling Hotel. Hundreds of children from struggling families had been invited to receive gifts, enjoy warm meals, and celebrate together. Unable to leave Nori at home alone, Rowena brought her along. The ballroom looked magical. Towering Christmas trees shimmered beneath crystal chandeliers. Children laughed while decorating gingerbread cookies. Volunteers filled tables with presents wrapped in bright paper. Everything looked perfect. Everything except one person. Standing quietly near the tallest Christmas tree was Alaric. Although surrounded by hundreds of smiling faces, he remained completely alone. He politely greeted guests. He thanked volunteers. He smiled for photographs. The moment cameras turned away, sadness quietly returned to his eyes. Nori noticed immediately. Children often see what adults overlook. She gently slipped away from her mother's side, holding one of her handmade Christmas cards. Without fear or hesitation, she walked toward the lonely millionaire. When she reached him, she looked into his eyes with complete innocence. Then she quietly said the words that would change both their lives. She told him he looked exactly like someone who needed a family too. For several long moments, Alaric couldn't respond. He had spent years convincing the world he was perfectly fine. Business partners believed him. Friends believed him. Even he almost believed it. Yet this little girl saw through every carefully practiced smile within seconds. Instead of walking away, Nori handed him the handmade Christmas card. Inside she had drawn a large family standing beneath a bright Christmas tree holding hands. Above the picture she had written in careful handwriting, "No one should be alone on Christmas." Alaric stared at the card as emotions he had buried for years suddenly rose to the surface. Nearby volunteers quietly noticed tears gathering in his eyes. Later that afternoon, after every child received gifts, Alaric asked one of his assistants about the little girl. He learned about Rowena. About her long workdays. About losing her husband. About the sacrifices she quietly made so her daughter could still believe Christmas was magical. The story stayed with him long after the celebration ended. That evening, instead of returning directly to his empty penthouse, Alaric drove through neighborhoods decorated with colorful Christmas lights. Families laughed together through brightly lit windows. Parents carried sleepy children home after holiday celebrations. He realized something painful. For years he had built buildings for thousands of families. Yet he had forgotten how to build a life for himself. The following morning, Christmas Day arrived beneath bright blue skies. Instead of spending the holiday alone, Alaric visited the small community center where Rowena volunteered every Christmas serving breakfast to elderly neighbors who had no families nearby. He quietly joined the volunteers. Nobody expected the city's most successful millionaire to carry food trays, wash dishes, and refill coffee cups. But he did. Nori immediately recognized him. She smiled as though greeting an old friend. Watching him laugh gently with lonely seniors, Rowena noticed something surprising. The sadness in his face hadn't disappeared. But for the first time, hope had begun to replace it. As warm winter sunlight streamed through the community center windows, Alaric realized that perhaps the greatest gift he could ever receive wasn't wrapped beneath a Christmas tree. Perhaps it was the courage to stop living alone. What none of them knew was that before Christmas Day came to an end, an unexpected event would forever connect the lives of a widowed millionaire, a hard-working single mother, and a little girl whose simple kindness had already begun healing a broken heart. Christmas afternoon painted the city in warm golden light as families continued celebrating together. Laughter echoed through parks, church bells rang in the distance, and children proudly showed off their new toys. Inside the small community center, however, something far more valuable than expensive presents was quietly unfolding. Alaric Thorne had spent the entire morning serving meals, washing dishes, and listening to stories from elderly neighbors who rarely had visitors. For the first time in 4 years, he forgot to look at his phone. He forgot business meetings, financial reports, and luxury. He simply enjoyed being surrounded by people. Watching him from across the room, Rowena noticed something she hadn't seen the day before. The heavy sadness that had rested on his shoulders seemed lighter. He still carried grief, but now there was warmth in his smile instead of emptiness. Nori noticed it too. Children always recognize the smallest changes in people's hearts. After lunch, volunteers began cleaning the hall. Nori quietly walked over to Alaric holding another small handmade card. This one was even simpler than the first. On the front she had drawn 3 people standing together beneath falling snow, while a bright star shined above them. Inside she had written, "Families can grow in unexpected places." Alaric carefully folded the card and placed it inside his coat pocket as though it were the most valuable gift he had ever received. Later that afternoon, Rowena thanked him for helping throughout the day. She admitted that many wealthy sponsors donated money, but very few stayed to serve meals beside everyone else. Alaric simply smiled. He confessed that giving money had never filled the emptiness inside him. Giving his time somehow felt different. As they spoke, Nori was busy helping elderly guests decorate a small Christmas tree near the entrance. One elderly woman suddenly became dizzy and nearly collapsed. Without hesitation, Alaric rushed forward, gently helping her sit while Rowena called for medical assistance. The situation was quickly brought under control, but the frightened woman tightly held Alaric's hand, thanking him for treating her like family instead of a stranger. Those words echoed in his mind long after the ambulance left. That evening, Alaric returned to his enormous penthouse. For the first time in years, he opened the storage boxes that had remained untouched since Helena passed away. Inside were Christmas ornaments they had collected together during their travels. There were handwritten recipes she loved preparing every December. A small baby stocking they had purchased years earlier while dreaming about becoming parents someday. Instead of hiding the memories again, Alaric carefully decorated his Christmas tree. He cried. He smiled. He thanked Helena for every beautiful memory they had shared. Then he quietly whispered that he was finally ready to live again. The following weeks brought unexpected changes. Alaric visited the community center every weekend. He helped repair broken furniture, funded new educational programs, and spent time reading stories to children. But he made one rule very clear. No reporters. No cameras. No publicity. He wanted his kindness to remain genuine. During those visits, he grew closer to Rowena and Nori. They never treated him like a millionaire. They laughed together over simple lunches. They planted flowers outside the community center. They visited the city park where Nori loved feeding birds every Saturday morning. For the first time in years, Alaric found himself looking forward to ordinary days instead of endless business victories. Several months later, one of Alaric's senior executives suggested closing the aging community center because the land had become extremely valuable for commercial development. The proposal promised enormous profits. Alaric quietly listened before declining immediately. He explained that not every success should be measured in money. Some places generated something far greater. Hope. Instead of selling the property, he announced a complete renovation. The center would become a permanent family resource center offering free tutoring, grief counseling, job training, childcare assistance, and holiday meals for struggling families throughout the city. Construction began that very spring. When the new building officially opened, hundreds of local families attended the celebration. Children filled the playground. Parents explored classrooms. Volunteers proudly welcomed guests through doors that would always remain open. At the entrance stood a beautiful bronze plaque. It didn't mention Alaric's fortune. It didn't celebrate his business achievements. Instead, it carried one simple sentence. Every family begins with one act of kindness. Many people asked what inspired the project. Alaric smiled before pointing toward Nori, who was happily helping younger children decorate cookies. He explained that sometimes the greatest teachers aren't professors or business leaders. Sometimes they're little children brave enough to notice another person's loneliness. As another Christmas approached 1 year later, the community center hosted its biggest holiday celebration ever. Hundreds of children laughed beneath brightly decorated trees. Music filled every hallway. Families who had once struggled now returned as volunteers to help others. Rowena looked around with tears of gratitude. Life was still challenging. There were still difficult days. But she no longer carried every burden alone. Alaric stood beside her watching Nori place the very first star on the center's Christmas tree. He finally understood something Helena had once told him years before. Love never truly disappears. It simply finds new ways to continue through the kindness we show others. Before the evening ended, Nori gently slipped her hand into Alaric's. She smiled exactly as she had on the day they first met. This time she didn't see a lonely millionaire. She saw someone who had become part of her family in every way that truly mattered. Alaric looked toward the bright Christmas lights surrounding the center and silently thanked life for sending him the smallest miracle in the form of one honest little girl. Before we reach the ending, we'd love to hear from you. Please leave a comment with the words, "Kindness creates family," if you believe love is built through compassion rather than blood alone. As fresh snow gently covered the streets outside, Alaric realized the greatest Christmas gift had never been waiting beneath an expensive tree. It had been waiting inside the heart of a child willing to tell a lonely stranger the truth. Sometimes family isn't found. Sometimes it is quietly built through shared kindness, healing, and hope. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone who may need encouragement today, leave a heartfelt comment, and subscribe to channel name. Your support helps us continue creating emotional stories that remind the world that kindness, love, and second chances still have the power to change lives. That Christmas, no one received the gift they expected. They received something infinitely more valuable. They found each other.